Welcome to the ISB show, continuing coverage of the Asian World Cup qualifiers. And today there was a match that I know, Roy, it was a long journey for the Indonesian national team, but today's the day where we finally have to say Indonesia is officially out of the World Cup after losing to Iraq. And that's how things stand. In the other match, of course, the UAE beat Oman. But let me just show the group real quick and see it once. We got to show it for everyone. Here's how things stand. Of course, Indonesia now, a tie would have been enough to at least give them a shot for the fifth round, but this is going to put them officially out. So, Roycito, I will turn it over to you. And of course, I don't see the Indonesia shirt, and I'm sure all the fans are wondering that question as well. But what's going on, Roy? How do you feel?
Yeah. So I wore my Indonesia shirt during the game against Saudi Arabia. I wore it during today's game. It is full of tears, my friend. It is ripped in one of the shoulders because I was so frustrated watching this game. I was frustrated by the refereeing. I was frustrated by Indonesia's ability to create but not finish chances. That, for me, was Indonesia's doom. Just the inability to create a dangerous opportunity. They settled around the box. They were in the attacking third frequently. They were passing around well. But when it came down to unleashing a dangerous shot, header, playing the perfect through ball, it just wasn't happening. And that was incredibly frustrating for me. It was incredibly frustrating for all of Garuda, I'm sure. But I didn't expect to be having this conversation today, Sahil. I didn't expect to have this conversation at this point.
Especially after the first half, right? Indonesia was so bright in the first half, and Iraq was very poor in the first half. And I thought one of those chances of Indonesia, exactly like you said, they just weren't clinical enough in the first half. And then second half, things switched around a little bit. I felt things changed. But I want to ask you a little bit. You mentioned it a little bit. I want to ask you. There was two kind of controversial moments with regard to the refereeing. One, of course, was the Ole Romani. He was getting through, and then the defender tackled him. The ref gave a yellow, not a red, in that situation. And of course, there was the bizarre situation at the end of the match with the penalty, which it looked like there was going to be a penalty awarded. Then there wasn't a penalty awarded. Then there was a red card. What do you think about all that? Do you think it was all correct in the end, or what?
I think with the red card, if you expulse a player in that situation, you give the penalty. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? What rule book is that referee looking at? Because you give a red card in that situation, you give the penalty in that same situation. You don't pick one over the other. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, in that instance, I feel Indonesia was robbed. In the first one, I also feel the same. I feel that was a foul. That was a red card. He was through on goal. I don't understand what happened in this game from a refereeing perspective. I think it was weak and cowardly refereeing. He struck me as a coward with his decisions. He didn't want to make it too hard for Iraq, so he gave the red. Oh, let's not give the penalty. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like an emotional decision. It felt like a decision of, I don't want to be too harsh. It wasn't that bad of a foul, but he made the decision to give a red. He needs to make the decision to give a penalty. It's
It was a
ridiculous.
strange situation. I guess what he was saying was he initially gave the foul, and then he said the elbow was a follow through to that play. So I'm giving him the red card, but I've never seen this situation happen before, which is why it's so bizarre. It was just a bizarre situation as a whole. But regardless, Roy, today it ends for Indonesia, which of course makes us go back to where we have to ask this question. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if obviously they were getting through either to the fifth round or to the World Cup. But when Indonesia made the decision to bring in Kluivert, do you think it was the correct decision?
Obviously not. Where we're sitting today, obviously it was not. It was a huge gamble,
Yeah.
and he did okay for a couple of games. He got some memorable wins. He got some memorable ties, but at the end of the day, he didn't get the job done, and he had
Yeah.
every opportunity to do so. This game, To lose this game, you couldn't lose this game. To go out on a tie, sure, but to lose against a team that's on pretty equal footing in terms
Yeah.
of talent on the field, it was the
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
It was
Iraq didn't even
clearly
have Ayman, didn't it? Iraq didn't even have Ayman Hussein, their most celebrated player.
Yep,
So and you saw in the first half, Indonesia was better, and this was a team that
yep,
Indonesia could have beat. So yeah,
yep. And listen, he got him playing some interesting attacking soccer. They did the same thing in the Saudi Arabia game where they started out of the gates attacking really well. They were creating chances. They were creating interesting opportunities. And that's the Kluivert stamp right there. He's a very attack-oriented coach, but he failed to get this team to a place where they are secure, where they are defensively sound, where they're not making tons of mistakes, and those mistakes are not leading to dangerous situations for the opposition. It still all looked kind of messy. It still all looked kind of disorganized. And that I put on the coach. Sure, he hasn't been there very long,
yeah,
but he was brought in for one purpose only, which was to qualify. He
yeah,
failed to qualify. We move past. I
yeah.
think the team needs to look hard and deep for what kind of identity they want to have moving forward. What do they want these players to look like? What do they want the tactical system to be? What works best for this country? What is the identity? And then you go and pick up a coach who matches those elements, who comes with the best plan possible. I don't think the long term is Kluivert.
Okay. So we're gonna come back to Indonesia in a second because this is they're out of the World Cup now, so we're gonna come back to them in a second. I just want to real quickly talk about because we'll be talking about these other teams now moving forward. Again, going back to what I showed before, this is now a straight shot, more or less, between the Emirates and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Iraq. So these are the matches, Roy, that we're going to have on Tuesday, and it's all coming down to the wire for these teams. What do you got to say? I mean, I think this is kind of who people expected. They expected Oman and Indonesia not to get in, but this is who we're going to get. In the end, it's going to be a straight shot between these four teams.
Yeah, it's unfortunately what most of the world expected. It's not what us on this show expected. I know we talked a lot about the potential of this Indonesian team and what they were capable of and what they showed signs of. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition yet. So, goodbye, Indonesia. This is a very, very sad and bitter goodbye. I'm very sad to say it. But now we have some interesting storylines with UAE. We have interesting storylines with Qatar. And I think it comes down to Qatar is a team that was extremely controversial in the last World Cup. One, from a hosting perspective. Two, they were beaten to a pulp in the last World Cup. And it was pretty embarrassing for the country. They need to come out and make a statement. They
Yeah.
need to come out and show that they are a good team that deserve that World Cup, that deserves to be in this next World Cup. Because so far, I haven't really seen too much of that, but I feel they're capable.
Yeah, this is the match. Is going to come down to the match. And of course, we'll talk about the Saudi Arabia Iraq match as well after. All right, going back to Indonesia now because we'll finish it off for this journey that we'll have for Indonesia. And one thing I want to say to all the Indonesian fans out there is this is just the start. We will, of course, see you in the Asian Cup in 2027. So this is all working toward there, Roy, is it not?
It is. And this Indonesia saw incredible growth over the past 2, 3 years. Incredible, monumental. We've talked about it at length on this channel. We've fallen in love with this team on this channel. And it's because of the way they have been playing, because of the way they've grown, the way these players have adopted the heart and soul of this country and made it their own. It's incredible. Like, you don't see this often at all in the world of sports, period, for a country to go from a complete afterthought on the global football mindset in the thinking of global football to front and center. They were front of center of every conversation that came from Asia. Every conversation that came from that part of the world was about Indonesia. So it's unfortunate that it didn't lead to a qualification, but what should be a sign of extreme hope and excitement is there's only up from here. The Federation has shown extreme interest In building this program, the Federation has shown that they are passionate about building soccer in the country, and the fans have shown that they're ready for an incredible team. And that's going to happen. It's going to happen if it continues to build at this pace.
Yeah. And 100% agree with you. So for all you Indonesian fans, we want to say we will continue to cover your team as it builds up from now until that 2027 World Cup. Unfortunately, we won't see you here in the US for this World Cup, but rest assured we will continue to cover you. We've all fallen in love with this team, and I will leave it to Roy to say some final words. For those of you enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. We will continue with continuing covering Asian football for the teams that are still going to the World Cup. And of course, for Indonesia, we will see you all soon. Roy, take it away.
My friends, my Garuda brothers and sisters, I just want to say, Bangkit lagi Garuda tak pernah menyerah. Vamos Garuda, carajo.